Hi everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to talk about the Universe 25 experiment. What does mouse heaven have to do with understanding societal development? Before I start this introduction, I wanted to say I know not every topic I choose is going to have a multitude of information with which to send my brain trickling down. However, it seems if there is very little detail in the actual case and many more resources dissecting it. What I mean is about half the resources that come up, usually 14 to 20 pages of however many, with each search have little to no correlation unless you use quotations to make exact strings of words come up, but even then you must differentiate and specify by human farms. Do you mean farms tended by humans or farms with humans being tended? Then half of those resources are valuable to the conversation at hand. With this case, one half of what's left is Facebook posts talking about it and YouTube videos dissecting it. This isn't a bad thing necessarily, because often I find there's something useful in the commentary, or it provides a very well simplified version of the information. The issue I find is that I can access more commentary on the case than information about the case. Please note that I do consider the hypocrisy in my statements when I choose to add my own commentary to the end this list. Either way, I will try to break down the case, what many believe it is telling us, and what I believe it is telling us. Mouse Utopia. We'll start this off by explaining the premise of the experiment. The question was, what would happen if a mouse had everything it could ever need? Unlimited food and water, numerous apartments, plenty of nesting supplies, but limited physical space. The funny thing about this project is that Calhoun had been running experiments like this for the past few decades, but due to lab space constraints, the experiments never ran to completion. Universe 25 was the first. Melkor 2024. Everything a mouse could ever need minus space for population growth equals violence, cannibalism, hypersexuality, asexuality, child abandonment, and societal collapse. Within a year, the population had hit its peak, then abruptly and noticeably slowed. The mice became violent, even attacking their own babies. The mice even began to engage in abnormal sexual behavior. Mice struggled to form social bonds or engage in social behaviors. The males began compulsively grooming themselves and stopped getting females pregnant. Effectively, says Ramsden, they became trapped in an infantile state of early development, even when removed from Universe 25 and introduced to normal mice. That was a direct quote from Melkor 2024. The author of this article then goes on to speak on some of the key components that brought me to talk about this case. First, he states that the fear of overpopulation was largely amplified by the media. Specifically, he mentioned Soylent Green. Basically, people use this experiment as another form of justification towards population control in poor and marginalized communities. Calhoun didn't seem as though this was his aim. Instead, he drove focus to build environments in alignment with human welfare. The writing then goes on to speak to the flaws in control systems within the experiment that could have led to the data being misinterpreted, then leading people towards linking correlation and causation. Furthermore, tests of similar status on human subjects have shown inconsistent results. It is acknowledged that an individual's specific social and psychological factors determine how they respond to crowding. This is in many ways aligned with what Calhoun was trying to communicate with his findings, the effects of social interactions. Melkor 2024. What do others believe this is meant to tell us? So there's a conversation about the overpopulation/depopulation bomb online, as there is with most things. Basically, this one creator posted saying, what I took to be something along the lines of overpopulation was being used as propaganda or fear-mongering, and I want to dig into this a little bit. For a long time, as the population was going up, there was this fear that we would run out of space, resources, that it would lead down dystopian roads, etc. The media amplifies that by creating movie plots that align with the fears of the majority because it drives profit. Don't get me wrong, there's a point where there are too many of one animal in an ecosystem, invasive typically, who don't give back the same or generate to the relationships necessary for prosperity. It just seems, as we see the use of those same tactics to get us to fear declining birth rates, that it was never truly what they made it out to be. That's from Pargan, forgive me if I said that name wrong, 2025. We are seeing birth rates decline for a lot of reasons, but one of the largely positive reasons for the decline is that many young would-be parents, teenagers, are exercising more caution while navigating uncertain times, and that is playing a significant role. The thing is, they told us that a species could not stop themselves from reaching a point of harsh decline. At that same time, they warned us about the responsibility to practice safe intercourse and made it so that food, shelter, and health are tied to socioeconomic status instead of a right. After all of that, now they want us to be worried about the opposite because it was never actually about the population. There will always be something super important to worry about, but it's just generally another thing to undermine successes in autonomy and direct our fears away from pushing that farther, essentially holding us back from sovereignty. Basically, this entire time, and by entire time I mean the last however many decades, we've been made out to fear this lack of resources in correlation with the population. That fear was built upon with media tactics, so people through this research proved beyond reasonable doubt that we needed some form of population control instead of mental support or social adjustments for our sanity. And instead of working to solve the issue of hunger, which we are well within the capacity to do if not for the greed of the few, we were told to do better, be more careful, be reasonable, etc. So now that we've shown to be capable of being careful with our means of reproduction, there's another problem, and there always will be another problem, that is. There's more conversation to be had in the comment sections of both Pargan 2025 and underscore mystery reads underscore 2025. What do I believe this is meant to tell us? Number one, I don't believe that every test on mice is meant to tell us a direct link to human behavior. Now, correlated to what I said about every writing telling us something about the author, this is true about the experiments as well. This experiment shows a profound interest in societal development and its decay, obviously, but what is often overlooked when everyone else hypes up the fear of overpopulation and inevitable collapse is that this tells us more about connection than we are solely seeing. When we lose a sense of community and the roles don't account for the number of people, we see behavior swing widely. Every single person will have their own traits to swing them positively or negatively along the scale, but when we lose the value of community, I see that we start to lose ourselves. In summary, the main takeaway, at least for me, is this solidification of how truly cruel science can be. If you say something is in the name of discovery and can convince enough people, nearly anything goes. In one of the writings I referenced, it says that this test would never be allowed today because they didn't monitor anxiety or try to help when the animals were clearly distressed. Yet we face the same anxieties and no one says how cruel that is. We could solve world hunger, we could have no homeless persons, we could all be supporting one another, but maybe that's the point of the experiment. Disclaimer, no, I don't actually believe the entirety of the world is within a testing lab, though it would be quite humorous if that turned out to be the case. Furthermore, what I take from all of this is that as long as we have our community, we can make it through things. I feel like I always come back to this though. We survived by being altruistic, and we will continue to survive by being altruistic to all persons, every living thing. Yes, we need art, education, learning, relationships, along with food, water, shelter, to live fulfilling lives. The version of art, the type of learning, and the basis of the relationships are all up to you. I just want to see all of us thriving in harmony with one another. I've been reading, braiding, Sweetgrass these last couple weeks, really digesting it, and it's only made me realize how much we all need each other. People, plants, animals, whatever you call each version of each living thing, we all owe each other the kindness of reciprocation or mutually beneficial relationships. I could keep rambling on, but I feel that this is all I can say about this topic without dragging it down an entirely different direction. Nonetheless, I feel I got my point across in at least a slightly coherent manner. I hope you enjoyed this and that it gave you pause, time to think, and a moment for reflection. I want to know it made people feel something to sit here and learn with me. If you enjoyed it, you should subscribe for free to get more increasingly coherent pieces as I find my footing in the world. And all my references will be provided in the Patreon and the Substack link in the description. That is all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!